If you want to help out and support the channel, there are a few things you can do. Go check out Flipside Gaming and use the promo code VOIDMAGE in all caps. This will get you 10% off all orders $10 or more. And if you go shopping on tcgplayer.com, go use my affiliate link in the description below. That way all purchases you make will go towards helping the channel. And lastly, go check out my Patreon. It's a more direct way that you can help the channel while also getting some more interaction. I appreciate all of your support. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Hello everyone, Commander Void here, back again for another 10 underrated Commander cards. Looking back at some of the worst sets in Magic's history, you're bound to find some pretty good standouts for Commander, and because something's eternally playable doesn't mean it's always worth something. So going back to sets like Onslaught and Scourge, you'll notice a bunch of cards that are pretty good in Commander, not really anywhere else. So let's start it off here with the first one, Cryptic Gateway. A lot of tribal support in Onslaught. It's fitting that we have artifact support to help us get our creatures out there. We can tap 2 untapped creatures we control to put a creature card from our hand into play that shares a creature type with each of those creatures that are tapped. This is something I would recommend to speed up certain tribal. If you had giant tribal, it's not very efficient. You're going to be spending a lot of mana to cast those creatures. So if you ever wanted to make a tribal deck out of anything that's typically large, Cryptic Gateway is what I would recommend to help speed your deck up. It's not like other tribal related artifact cards where it's usually just cost reduction. This will actually cheat a creature into play so your opponents can't counter it with a normal counter spell. And the next card is going to be the start of a trend you see in this video. Very cool set of auras, and the first one is Dragon Scales. This is probably the worst one, but you're going to see a lot better ones later in the video. If you're a fan of the aura of Rancor, this is very similar to how that card works. The idea here is to get multiple uses out of an aura, even if it doesn't do anything super crazy, which Vigilance in +1/+2 doesn't really wow anybody, but the fact that whenever you have a creature converted mana cost 6 or greater come into play and it comes back, that's a pretty big deal. It doesn't even have to be a Voltron deck, just any deck where you can reliably play bigger creatures, which in Commander, that's all around. That is the majority of what you're going to want to do. So Dragon Scales itself being a 2-mana aura, it may not be the best one of these auras we're going to talk about, but getting multiple uses, having them come back, can be really deadly and make your deck a little bit more consistent. The next card is Ancestor's Prophet. Again, another Onslaught card, all about the tribal here. This time it's Clerics. Unfortunately, we don't have that much Cleric support in Commander right now, most of it coming around this time period, but it's an ability similar to that of the powerful wizard tap abilities, such as Azami, Lady of Scrolls, Inala, Archmage, Ritualist. You tap 5 Clerics, you gain 10 life. This is probably more speculation than anything, but do not sleep on some of these Cleric themed cards from back in Onslaught. Cleric Tribal has been something a lot of people have been asking for, and I get the feeling that it's somewhere on the horizon, so keep an eye out on Ancestor's Prophet, but also a lot of those other good Cleric cards. 10 life may not seem like a lot, but towards the end of the game, it's probably enough to save your life. Following that, we have another aura, Dragon Wings. Same idea as with Dragon Scales, but this time the keyword is flying. It works exactly the same way with converted mana cost 6 or more. There's also another draw here in cycling, so you have a way to put it in the graveyard without having it attached to a creature. This means you could also throw it into cycling decks if you really wanted to. I don't think it's going to shine there as much as it would in a good creature-based deck that just needs good keywords like flying. And when you can reliably have this come back for your big creature, if your commander's converted mana cost 6 or greater, you're always going to get these auras back. That's pretty sweet. And there's arguably a better one later on in the video. Depending on how you feel about it, Dragon Shadow could be better. Instead of flying, instead of vigilance, the enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has fear. So for all the reasons why you would want flying in a deck, fear is probably just as good, if not even better, because the majority of creatures in Commander are probably not going to be artifact or black creatures, meaning if you are playing Voltron, it's going to make it easier for you to get in that 21 Commander damage. Your creature's probably going to go in uncontested. Pretty much the same idea as the 2 Dragon Auras before. They keep coming back, nothing but good for your deck. Then there's a card, Siphon Mind. This is probably the most well-known card in this video, but it's one that so many people overlook for their black decks, because most card draw in black decks are going to require you to pay some life, such as Sign in Blood. You don't want to have to keep doing that. There are ways to gain life back, but why not just get card draw from forcing your opponents to discard, which is another theme you could go with in black. Black does this all the time, where you can force each opponent to discard their cards, benefit off of that with something like Liliana's Caress. Not only will you be taking cards away from from them, but you'll also be hitting them with some massive life loss. Just something to keep an eye out, because with the current trends, Kirik, son of Yawgmoth, everybody's into paying life for card draw. You don't always have to make your black decks about that. Then we have one of the last two, Dragon Breath. Now this is probably, in my opinion, the best dragon aura, and it's probably because it gives the creature haste. Haste is such a big deal, not only with Voltron, but with big creatures in general, and if that creature's converted mana cost to 6 or greater, you're going to want to swing with it immediately anyway. Now in addition to that, you also have Fire Breathing, which is an unofficial keyword. A lot of people just call it Fire Breathing, but it's pretty much whenever you pay a red mana for a creature to get +1 power until end of turn. It's a great ability because you can just keep spamming it. If you have like 10 mana open, why not dump all of it into this kind of ability? You're going to deal more damage. That creature has haste. You are encouraged to keep attacking. So yes, without a doubt, this is probably the best one. Haste is one of the most sought after keywords in Commander. And then we have the green one, Dragon Fangs. Now just because I like Dragon Breath the best, it gives you the best keyword, gives you insane power off of the fire breathing, Dragon Fangs is still pretty good. It's more similar to Rancor than the other ones because it gives the creature trample. It also gives +1/+1, so if the goal here is to get in damage and to keep attacking, play a deck with both Dragon Breath and Dragon Fangs. It's going to make it real easy to deal damage to your opponents. I'm honestly surprised I haven't seen anybody play with these before, because having a reliable way to keep getting that same keyword back onto your creatures is pretty underrated in Commander. You may not have the best card draw, but you want to be able to endure, and if you're constantly losing your permanents, if you're constantly losing your auras, it's very difficult for some decks to get back into games. So even if it's just a little boost by giving a creature a good keyword, it could mean a lot for your deck. And the next two cards are going to be green, just letting you know ahead of time. Broodhatch, Nantuko. A lot of good reasons if you're a Commander player to look back at Onslaught, and Morph is one of them. With Kadena Slinking Sorcerer, you're going to want to experiment with a lot of different morph cards. Whenever Broodhatch Nantuko is dealt damage, you may put that many 1/1 green insect creature tokens into play. And it has a morph cost of 3. So the idea here is, like all of your other morph creatures, it's just going to be sitting there face down until your opponents want to attack you. Now the cool thing about combat is that all of the damage is going to be dealt to it first. So if you have a creature that's attacking you that's much bigger, let's say it has 10 power, you can block it with your Broodhatch Nantuko, and that 10 damage is going to be dealt to the Broodhatch Nantuko that's blocking it, as long as it's the only creature blocking that 10 power creature. Because remember, your opponents can decide how much damage they want to deal to your other creatures if you choose to double block, and they don't have to deal any damage to this guy. So make sure you have it block by itself. All that damage is going to be dealt to it, and you get rewarded with a bunch of 1/1 green insect creature tokens. It's nothing super crazy, but if you're running a token deck, it's something I would consider. It's a nice little trick, and it's a pretty unknown morph creature, so if you have a face down creature, your opponents are not going to immediately guess what it is. It is most likely to just be that question mark on the battlefield. And the final card to show you all today is Symbiotic Worm. Big old 8 mana 7/7 green worm. When it's put into a graveyard from play, you put 7 1/1 green insect creature tokens into play. 1/1 green insect creature tokens may not seem like a lot, but it's more about the deck you put it in than anything else. And Symbiotic Worm is a death trigger, which is a pretty big deal. We have had cards that interact with death triggers within the last year or so, but there are also good graveyard recursion decks. You're going to have sacrifice outlets, you're going to have ways to kill this thing, rewarding you with all of those tokens, which in a long game of Commander, if you have any way of surviving punishment, you should probably go with it. Again, there's cards like Avenger of Zendikar, which are going to give you tokens that have a chance to get much bigger. That is more dependent on your deck's ability to get consistent land drops. You get a set amount of tokens here, 7 1/1s. It is inferior to Avenger of Zendikar. I want to make that clear. But what we have here is a much lesser known card that is capable of giving you consistent creature presence if you're able to sacrifice it and bring it back over and over again. But anyway guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think about these 10 underrated Commander cards, mostly from Onslaught, but there are also some Scourge cards, changing it up a bit, going from older sets to newer sets and back to older sets. It's probably the best way for me to find new underrated cards I haven't seen before or haven't played that much with. Let me know what you all think. Void here signing off. See you all next video. Just wanted to say thanks to the patrons who are supporting me on patreon.com. Go check it out. There are different tiers with their own rewards. One of them is having your name in the credits of my videos. I know it's not much, but it's something that I can do to show my appreciation. Thanks again, and have a good day.